I would now like to invite our guest of honor, Shri Vaibhav Dange ji, on stage for the guest of honor address on the infrastructure panel. Can we have a big round of applause for Mr. Vaibhav? Mr. Vaibhav is also part of Build India Awards 2025. Please check out the brochures at registration desk. So you can check out the nominations for the awards is getting closed on 26 December of 2024. I'll hand over to Mr. Vaibhav.
Thanks. Good morning. Thank you, Construction Technology Alliance Institute, your team for inviting me here for interacting with wonderful audience, startups, technocrats, construction companies, technology companies, material technology companies, I think entire academia, entire spectrum of construction sector is probably here, represented by all of you here. I have been given a task of sharing with you about how infrastructure landscape is shaping up in India, particularly in last 10-15 years. I have been into infrastructure sector from last 10-15 years, particularly in public policy initiatives in infrastructure sector. And to share with you, you'll be happy to know we all are experiencing these days. But just to put the whole infrastructure growth that's happening in last 10 years in India, to just put that in some perspective, in some numbers, so we are now second largest road network in the world. India has become the second largest road network in the world. So when I say second largest road network, it covers everything from a smallest village road to a national highway to a expressway. Our national highway length has doubled in last 10 years from around 96,000 kilometers to around 150,000 kilometers. And when I say our national highway length has doubled, I'll again try to give you a perspective. India had a total road length of around 52 lakh kilometers, which includes all kinds of roads. And national highways were around 96,000 kilometers, which was less than 2% of our total length. But this 2% of national highway carries around 80% of India's logistics load. Just imagine the mismatch we had. The entire 80% logistic is handled by the 2% of the road length we had. And therefore, we badly needed the better, efficient highway infrastructure. Our railway has seen almost 100% electrification in last 10 years. I think we are around 98% today. Around 2% is left, which I'm sure will be over by June next year or at the most December next year. I think some northeastern parts are still awaiting the electrification, but rest of the rail network is electrified. Our number of airports, commercial airports, have increased from 46 in 2012 or 11 to 76 in 2012-11 to 146 in 2024. They have doubled. Commercial operated airports in India have doubled. And probably by 2030, we are going to be the biggest aviation market in the world in terms of number of passengers traveling every day. And therefore, our smallest places, I'll share you an example. Yesterday, when I came to Bangalore, I came from Nanded, a place near in Maharashtra. I'm sure some of you must have heard about a place called Nanded in Maharashtra. It's one of the very important districts in Maharashtra, in Marathwada region. And it's well known in India because of the sacred Gurudwara at Nanded. And therefore, there is a lot of religious tourism happening in Nanded. So can you imagine, Nanded runs 5 flights a day from Nanded to places like Delhi, to places like Amritsar, to places like Hyderabad, Bangalore. Actually, you know how we all are in a way, in the age of digital information and apps and networks. And when I was supposed to reach Nanded day before yesterday for some work, so I didn't knew there is a direct flight from Delhi to Nanded. And neither my office, could check it because it was from the second airport in Delhi, which is called as Hindon Airport in Ghaziabad. So we never thought that Hindon will have a flights to some places in India because we are used to flying from a Delhi airport. So I took a flight from Delhi to Nagpur, got down in Nagpur, traveled around 300 kilometers by road. Of course, it was just a 3-4 hours drive, but traveled 4 hours to Nanded, finished my work. And when I was searching from how do I reach Bangalore from Nanded, and I got to know that there is a direct flight between Nanded to Bangalore, which I could catch in the evening and be here in time. And there is a very small airline which operates these flights in this region. So it's not important which airline or which airport. What I'm trying to explain to you is the infrastructure transformation in India has been phenomenal. India is building a new port called Vadhavan Port near Mumbai, the original near JNPT. In fact, Jawaharlal Nehru Port Authority is building this new port called Vadhavan Port on the western coast near Raigad. The capacity that is being built at Vadhavan Port, which will be operational in another 3.5 years, is combining the total container handling capacity in India at single port. It is adding the capacity of the total capacity India has today at the container handling capacity. And India, mind you, has enough ports. We have around 12 major ports. When I say major ports are the ports which are built and operated by the central government, and then state operates through a private operators, private ports. And we have around, I think, 46 smaller ports all across the coastal line in India. All combined together, we are adding additional capacity of that all ports in one single port. Our waterways are being better utilized for transportations. For example, our Ganga is regularly being used for goods transport, apart from the, people transport that's happening conventionally, traditionally, but goods transports are happening. For example, a plant on a Ganga, a thermal plant on a Ganga run by NTPC, entire coal is supplied by barges to that plant from last now almost 8-9 years. And if you travel by road, you spend around 1.5 rupees. If you spend around 1.5 rupees per kilometer per kg on the highway, in railway you spend around 75 paisa or around 85, between 75 to 1 rupees. But if you travel, transport those goods through a waterway, you spend around 50 paisa. So, that is the kind of efficiency you can bring in with waterways and other kind of changes that are happening in India. The whole idea of giving you this perspective was just to give you a broad idea about how India's infrastructure landscape is changing. And when I say infrastructure landscape is changing, we all are proud that we are now 5th largest economy probably in the world, and we intend to become 3rd largest economy in another probably shortest possible time. If not in 5 years, probably in less than 7-8 years, we want to become 3rd largest economy in the world. 5 trillion economy by, I think, in another 5 years. So this entire growth is being driven by the infrastructure sector, if I may say so. Because we all understand the impact of infrastructure on the overall economy, the kind of cascading effect infrastructure brings not only to the regular, just not about building roads or building railways or building, but it brings in a tremendous amount of catalytic effect to the entire economy. It has a tremendous amount of cascading effect. For example, in 2013-14, we had metro being constructed in around 4 cities, if I'm not 4 or 5 cities. Today, we have metro being constructed in 22 cities. Just imagine the impact it will have on a public infrastructure. Today, we are constructing around 200 kilometers of metro every year. And mind me, recently we had a German chancellor and the industry minister visiting in India. And I don't know whether you have seen that reel that made a huge ho-halla on the social media, where the India's commerce minister was interacting with the industry minister sitting in the metro, Delhi metro. And India's commerce minister was saying that we will have to probably relook at sourcing from Germany because you are not able to supply us on time. Can you imagine India talking to world in those kind of terms? I'm not saying we should talk arrogantly on those terms. I'm just trying to give you a perspective how markets have changed, how economies have changed. And that change has been driven by the infrastructure growth that India has seen in last 10 years, a phenomenal infrastructure growth. Today we are building, I think, 35 kilometers of, constructing 35 kilometers of highway every day. Imagine the amount of impact it has. For example, none of our cement industry today is under capacity utilization. It's beyond, under capacity utilization. They are actually under a lot of stress for expansion and other things. Most of these sectors. So point I'm trying to give you a perspective about is India's infrastructure, I'm sure we all recognize, is growing fast, growing rapidly, massively. But of course, we were much behind, and therefore we need to double up to catch up with the world. There is huge backlog that we are fulfilling. But I also see that last 10 years growth has seen that we are entering into a new phase of growth. And when I say new phase of growth, this pace of growth will continue. I'm sure this will continue, whether it is constructing new highways. For example, highways has entered into a new phase of growth, and we are building greenfield expressways. So for example, I think around 20 expressways are being built in India. People from Mumbai are aware one expressway between Delhi, Mumbai and Pune had changed the entire corridor between Delhi, Pune and Nasik. And we are building around 20 expressways across India today. Whether it is Bangalore, Chennai, whether it is Bangalore, Mysore, whether it is Mumbai, Pune, the entire corridor. And just imagine the impact. When I say impact, for example, we did a study. I happened to work in the government in the National Highway. So when we did study before we were planning for Mumbai-Delhi Expressway, a normal truck or a vehicle used to travel between Delhi to Mumbai. It used to take for a logistic truck almost 2.5 to 3 days to reach from Delhi to Mumbai. And he used to encounter around 12 toll plazas and 10 minutes of delay at each toll plaza amount to around 120 minutes of delay. And 120 minutes of delay at toll plaza means 120 minutes of idle running of engine, and amount of fuel it is burning, amount of emissions it's doing in the environment, and the frustration of the commuters and all that's put together. This single Delhi-Mumbai expressway is going to save time for a logistic truck from almost 2.5 days to less than 24 hours. A truck today can travel in less than 24 hours. Target is to reach in 14-15 hours, but less than 24 hours from Delhi to Mumbai or Mumbai to Delhi. Imagine the impact it will have on a logistics efficiency. So the whole idea is not about traveling fast or traveling better. Whole idea is about bringing that logistics efficiency. For example, 10-12 years back, India's logistic cost was around 18%. And global average was 10 to 12%. Very advanced, very efficient countries had around 10%, but global average was 12%. So our businesses were 6% non-competitive from day one, from the word go. They were 6% non-competitive. And we expect our products, our services, our technologies to compete globally, in the global market. And we can't have, successful manufacturing with 6% inefficiency on a day go because of the logistics inefficiency. So all those put together is driving India's growth. It changes India's infrastructure landscape. Just to give you another, to leave with you a thought on where do we now probably reach? As Martin was saying in his presentation, India needs to look at better now managing its infrastructure. So I think with the growth of infrastructure that has happened in India, of course, there was a huge opportunity for Indian companies to, grab this infrastructure growth, and most of them have grabbed it with both the hands, and India's capability in infrastructure development has grown phenomenal. For example, I remember there are 500 new contractors that have been added in last 10 years in the area of metro, highway, all kind of. And when I say 500 are recognized corporate contractors who are working with the size of 200, 300 crores to probably 2,000 crore. But there are thousands of vendors that have added to these 500 contractors. And India has seen this phenomenal growth in last 10 years in every sphere of infrastructure. There are more than 15 infrastructure companies got listed in last 5-6 years at the stock market. So India is seeing a phenomenal growth in building the capability, in expanding the infrastructure, but we are also reaching to a level where we need to now drastically focus on better designs, better use of technology in our infrastructure, because we have built a good infrastructure in last 10 years. We are catching up with the backlog which we had globally. But now we need to manage our infrastructure better. We need to maintain our infrastructure better. And therefore, I think that's where the technology and organizations, startups like they are present here, will play a very, very critical and important role, including academia. In fact, I was discussing yesterday during the dinner. For example, we need to bring in a lot of new technologies on construction management, on construction material. We talk about sustainability. For example, the startup which got the award, I think, Pothole something. So I was going through their stall. It's a phenomenal example of recycling the plastic and using it for infrastructure. Those kind of more such experience, probably thousands of experiments are required. For example, today crumb rubber is being used in the bitumen. Plastic 7% is being mixed into the bitumen. Those kind of reforms are required, and probably academia will have to play a bigger role in pushing those kind of reforms. See, I have seen sitting on that side of the table. So whenever government officers, bureaucrats, or the authorities want to experiment new technologies, the system has its own challenges, and system has its own bottlenecks. But we need strong academia to give us, the decision maker, enough power to experiment those kind of new technologies and implement those new technologies in our infrastructure. I'll share you a couple of examples. For example, and challenges which we face. We got a proposal from the ministry downwards for the approval of the minister, saying that we need to do a conditional survey of all our bridges on our national highway. And it had a huge cost attached to it. So minister said, this doesn't look very logical. Just to do a survey, we are spending so much of money. What is that we are doing? You need to understand. So, we deep dived into everything. And we came to know that the government was appointing, consultants to do a survey of our bridges and their conditional survey in various states, in all states, and the agencies were being appointed each state-wise. And there was a huge cost. So we called everybody who were applying for, participating in the bid. So they said, sir, we don't know how many bridges we will have to survey. And we were, shocked to know we didn't had a list of number of bridges on our national highway or on our highway. So the first thing we started was collecting the right database of bridges. And then we created an Indian bridge management system which digitized the entire structural data in India, and then use of it, using that data, as Martin was saying, more data analytic based decision making on maintenance, all those things. That led to few startups coming up with developing sensors for a 24/7 structural health monitoring. We have seen so much, we every day see so much of new bridges collapsing, old bridges collapsing. So few startups came up with the sensors that can be embedded into the structures, and a real-time data can be received on your desktop or on a phone. and using that for a decision making on maintenance and other part of the structures. Those kind of interventions are very much required. But unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, I'm sure there are so many engineers here, but unfortunately, none of those technologies were driven by engineers in the government. That's the most unfortunate part of it. Most of these technologies were, commercial entrepreneurs, startups, they brought it from outside, tried to, adopt it for India, and then we went to, acceptable large academic institutes in India. We asked them to validate, they certified, and then we started using it. I think academia will have to play a larger role in bringing those kind of technologies, in developing those kind of technologies, in adopting those technologies wherever they are developed, and try to bring that to India, try to convince decision makers, validate those technologies and try to convince them here, and try to bring them here. So to cut my story short, with this phenomenal growth, I see a next round of development, evolvement of growth that is going to happen in infrastructure is more on bringing in new technologies on managing, maintaining our infrastructure. So for example, India has come up with a lot of out-of-box ideas on development and funding of infrastructure. So nowadays, once a road is built, within 2 years, that roads are monetized to the funds. And they pay you NPV at today and then toll it for 15 years. Now those funds are supposed to maintain that road. And they need a lot of technology and inputs to manage and maintain those kind of infrastructure. So whether it is airport, whether it is port, whether it is metro, all those things. So for example, today we are talking about developing a one mobility card in India. There can be solutions where yours or mine debit credit card can act as my ticket. Whether I go to the bus, whether I go to the taxi, whether I go to the metro. A lot of those new elements that are required in infrastructure. So I think the next phase of growth in infrastructure is going to be use of technology and data analytics for managing and maintaining our infrastructure better. And that is something which offers a huge amount of opportunity not only to the startups, because this managing and maintaining doesn't require enough capability in-house. So for example, building an infrastructure, if you want to be a contractor, there will be a lot of capacity that is required to qualify you as a contractor. But this using technology for managing and maintaining the infrastructure, new startup, young academic, academic institution backed with young startups can come up and grab those kind of opportunity. I think that's the future that's going to happen in infrastructure. Another area which will going to drive the infrastructure is the sustainability and alternative methods of transport. A lot of innovation is required in our last mile connectivity. For example, London for transport has kept a vision of providing public transport to every citizen within 500 meters of his residence. So if that kind of vision we want to achieve to reduce congestion, in our cities, in our urban center, we will need strong public transport, and not only, metro or buses or railway, we will need a kind of a multimodal, transport system where a lot of new innovative transport mechanisms will have to be evolved. For example, for the hilly areas, India is developing 250 ropeway projects for the hilly areas. It was unimaginable few years back. Today, in total, we had around 30-35 ropeway projects in India in last 50-60 years. Now we are building 250 new ropeway projects. Just imagine the kind of growth that is happening and opportunities that are coming to us. I am sure with the institute like IISc and the organizations like Construction Technology Alliance Institute and startups and a hunger in India's youth to grow will drive our growth better and will make our infrastructure far more superior and better, more efficient, more effective, more safe, and will also drive the overall growth for the country. Thank you so much.